Wonderful, thank you. Well, let's get going then this afternoon. I know we have a lot to cover and we've got a fantastic session. So just in case, hopefully you are all part of the Sustainable Procurement Pledge, but just in case any of you are new or are watching this afterwards as a recording, we'll just take 2 moments to just talk you through where it started, because we've actually made fantastic progress. We've actually been around for more than 1,000 days now. We started, it was born in 2019. And really the founders of Thomas and Bertrand really believed that they wanted to do things faster. Things weren't moving to become sustainable quick enough. And so really this group was born out of a view that we as procurement professionals can harness our power together if we collaborate and share our knowledge to have a much more larger scale positive impact on our supply chains. So in terms of what we are asking, this is a group which is for procurement by procurement. We're asking individuals to sign a procurement pledge, which embraces 5 core principles. We are asking people to stand up for our people and planet. We believe that between us, we can all change the world together, and that change has to start with ourselves. So this is not about waiting for our CEOs in the organisations to make all the change, but it's really for us as procurement, when we're negotiating with our suppliers and our new deals, that we are able to embed sustainability and ESG within every single deal we do. And if we all do that, we will make that difference faster and quicker. So between us as a group, we want to share our knowledge and listen to others. So we do various platforms and events like this one, but also we have chapter groups of various different types where we can get together and talk and share. And that's really the essence of what we're about, so that we can all leave the right legacy. So if you haven't signed up yet, we will share the link in a moment in the chat, in terms of being able to do so. And we believe that if we could get 1 million procurement professionals signed up by 2030, we can control $8.3 trillion of the world trade in goods and services. And when you actually take a moment to stop and think about that, that's an enormous impact that we can all do, because most of our organisations come through our teams and our departments when we're dealing with our supply chains. So between us all, we can make a massive impact. So we are part of the UK chapter. My name's Jo Parkin. Unfortunately, Seb is unable to join us this afternoon. So we run the UK chapter between us, and this is our element of collaboration. So we have got different geographic chapters within SPP for different geographic locations, and we've also then got a matrix structure of other ones such as supply diversity or packaging or travel, etc., where we actually have other ones where it's specific topics of interest. So between us, you can join as many chapters as you want. We all run events, we all have different topics and conversations. And most of the way to find us is either through our LinkedIn groups or via our website, which is spp.earth. Actually, if we can flick onto the next slide, I think I've put it up there. Perfect. So we have spp.earth as our main ambassador network, and that's where you can actually sign up to the pledge as well. And then it lets you through lots of really valuable information, which we've got up there, which can be shared for free. There is no cost at all to join. This is purely about collaborating together and working together. You can find us as well through LinkedIn. The main SPP group is called Sustainable Procurement Ambassadors, but our UK chapter, if you search, is SPP UK Group as well. So if you haven't joined us, do come, and welcome to all of you. It's open to everybody. We are, as I say, procurement for procurement. That's all I'm going to say this afternoon in terms of context and setting the scenes. We have a fantastic lady, Elvrie, to talk to you this afternoon. Well, this is a topic about finance, how we can change the narrative with finance, which we believe all of us as procurement professionals in our role have this conversation all the time with our finance colleagues, and we're trying to move that narrative from cost reduction, cost avoidance, to really embed sustainability and ESG, so that they can really appreciate the value in this all the way through the organisation, and we change and really embed it so we don't have that same cycle of conversation, which generally happens on an annual basis. Now, let me introduce Elvrie to you. She has devoted her 30-year career in the procurement function. She has been CPO positions, most recently for L'Occitane, and she's also been in operational and strategic positions. She's currently based in France, but she's also lived in Switzerland and the US. She's also worked for Colgate-Palmolive and also Unilever as well. She is a wonderful, vast knowledge of procurement experience, which I hope you'll appreciate and listen to. And we want it to be an open discussion this afternoon. So please do welcome Elvrie to talk to you about how we should be trying to change that narrative with finance.
Thank you, Jo, for your introductions. Very kind words, and thank you so much for the invitation to try to contribute to this hot topic, which is how to collaborate, how to work with finance. And the topic is I always remember, I have 30 years of experience, as you mentioned, and recently the discussion was about just before the COVID, how to, or before even the ESG topics, it was how to get the cost avoidance recognized by finance. And now it's not anymore this, now it's about ESG and value creation. So things at least are evolving, even if answers are not obvious. It's still complicated. This is why we still have these topics on procurement events. So I would like to start, and please, I'm talking to the audience, please interrupt me at any time if you have questions or comments, more than welcome. Let's try to have it like a live event. So I would start with the KPIs, because to me, everything comes from the KPI, because there is a sentence that says, people don't do what you expect, they do what you inspect. So if companies are inspecting savings from procurement, they will get savings. It's not because they expect procurement people to create value or to work on ESG that they will do it if they don't have KPIs. And the KPIs we used to use in the past, and we're still using, to me, are responsible of the challenges we are facing today. Because having, and we know the KPIs is really about saving money, and we all know that the reason why we have these ESG challenges today is because not only procurement, but the companies, the world has been focusing on trying to always find cheapest solutions without really taking care of the consequences. So just to clarify my point, this is a famous iceberg on total cost of ownership. So what the benchmark are saying is that 30% of the value created from a supplier with a supplier relationship, partnership, is on price reduction. All the rest, 70%, is on cost reduction and value creation. So it's on internal cost reduction. That means a cost you have at your company, and you're working to reduce it. A cost you are sharing with your suppliers. So again, you are here working with your supplier, trying to find a solution to reduce the costs. And then we have the value creation. So I can maybe give you an example. Internal cost reduction. When I was at L'Occitane, we used to buy some aluminum tubes, and we're buying also some labels. And on the production line, the labels was glued on the machine, on the tubes, and there was 2 guys on the production line checking, and 25% of the products were destroyed or given to the employees because the label was not properly taped on the aluminum tube. And so with the team, we moved to a pre-printed label. That means there was no issue about, taping the label on the tube. We have been able to remove one guy on the production line, and there was no more production of products that were not facing or meeting the expectation in terms of quality. But the printed tube was costing more money than the plain tube, sharing the same SAP code. So the savings that represent this project, which is a great project in terms of GAG, of just cost reduction, if it's just focus on cost, has not been recognized by finance. And even so, they said the printed tube costs more money than the plain tube. So again, procurement people can try to do their best. If finance is not recognizing the efforts, it's becoming a challenge. Shared cost with suppliers, you're sharing, you are receiving a batch of ingredients, and the supplier does the biochemical checks, and you do it, and the numbers don't fit, and then you stop the production, and it costs big money. In this case, you decide which one of the two are going to be in charge of the bioanalysis of the product. And that can help avoiding a lot of costs. Value creation. Let me give you an example of a project I was involved with at Unilever. Unilever wanted to develop a shampoo that you can rinse with little water for India, where people don't have access to running water. So it was to help the women in the region having to bring less water, and to the consumption of water, to consume less water to rinse the shampoo. And this is pure value creation, because in this case, procurement is contributing to invent something that is new, that is good for the company growth, because this is important, and for the environment and the society. So this is the iceberg I'm always using to share my convictions. So with my team in the past, and now with the people I'm accompanying at Regenerative Procurement, the boutique I set up, to try to help to explain that price is only one small piece of the story. So as you were saying, Joe, as an introduction, the time for price cost killing is over, and we need to have another approach. And this is from The Rock. As he says, blood, sweat, and respect. First two you give, last one you earn. So just a way for me to share the fact that it's not going to be easy, and there is no answer. There is no one recipe. It's complicated. If not, it would have been done already. So don't expect to have an answer, a recipe at the end of the session, but more like some ideas or some just trying to open the chakras and see how we can make things happen in our organizations. Please do not hesitate to interrupt and share your comments or questions. So just to set the scene, but I'm sure you all know, you're all facing the same situation. We in procurement are facing three major challenges during the last years. And to me, it's an opportunity. We have an opportunity to raise the function in the organizations. So we are facing new geopolitical paradigms. We are facing also an environment that is deteriorated, and we have the acceleration of crisis, of emergence of crisis. So geopolitics. So as I told you, I started working 30 years ago, and at that time it was quite easy, right? It was the USSR against the free world, and in terms of business, it was quite simple, I would say. In the meantime, the world became global, and today we have many leaders around the table, and even Europe is just represented by one flag, and we all know that it's 27 leaders sitting around the table. So it's becoming highly complex, and so the business world also. The rise of China, this is even more the case. I remember in the year 2000, 2010, we were doing tenders, launching tenders, and Chinese suppliers started to give us very cheap prices. We knew we'd never work with them because the supply chains were not ready for that. There was no, all these containers and all these sea routes to move goods from China to Europe or US. And the Chinese prices, we use them. I use them to push my European or American suppliers to drop their prices. And most of them have disappeared today. So I know we're working with the Chinese suppliers, which is fine. But the issue is that the production are far away from our ability to check or to control, and so we are losing the control of the situation. Even if if the artificial intelligence is going to support us, and its tools are already available to do so. But companies need really to embed these tools into their processes. From a global world, we are now moving to a deglobalization world. So I just found that on Google, some conferences about deglobalization. So difficult to keep your north and to know what to do, what's going on, what to do, how to support your company. The world is in pain. We all see that in our countries. Hot summers, fires in Europe, all around Europe. There's another big issue, which is the social conditions, the human rights. We are far away, of course, hopefully, and thanks God, to child labor or slavery. But my point of view is that we in Europe, in America, are focusing very much on the heat, on the rise of temperature. But if we don't fix it, we don't find a way to fix the social, let's say, issues, it's going to be difficult to fix the climate change. And again, this is not an easy task. If not, people would have been fixed it yet. Crisis. I was working in New York at Colgate headquarters in 2008 during the subprime crisis. And then we have been quite quiet for 10 years. And suddenly 3 crises in 3 years. I'm teaching procurement to young people master degree level. And these guys, poor guys, they only have seen this kind of crisis. And I told them, expect the next one to come soon. As I said, it cannot be. I said, yeah, sure, for sure. It's clear that the crises are becoming more and more coming back quickly, more and more. Before it was like 10 to 20 years between a crisis. Now it's mostly every year. And we in procurement, we pay the high cost because prices are increasing, and we have to face to try to find solution for the sourcing shortages, which is a major responsibility. Because the plant that is shutting down means people are losing their jobs and lost sales. So it's a major responsibility in our shoulders. Price increasing and sourcing dropping. So we have this risk and opportunity usual topic, but I think we need to do something with that, because at the end it is the world we are working on now. So we need to communicate to me on risk and to leverage opportunity, and this is going to be what I'm going now to try to develop with the audience, how to communicate on risk with finance, and not just finance, and how to leverage opportunities. Maybe I can stop now just a few seconds to know if there is some questions or comments at that stage. Joe, quiet audience?
Not yet that I can see of anybody. Has anybody got any comments of anything? Is this resonating for you with some of your conversations that you're having with your finance? Maybe need to get a little bit more in, Elvrie.
Okay, good. So again, I think the discussion we need to take is not only with finance. Finance, of course, is important.
Sorry, Elvire, yeah. I couldn't get off mute. I couldn't find the right button. Apologies. No, conversations with finance and anything to do with procurement is always difficult, right? Unless you can find it in the P&L. Right? If I hear that one more time, I think I'll scream, right? But that's the way. But you're dead right. Your iceberg, your total cost of ownership, trying to explain that, and it's not just to finance, it's to other people in the organisation. All they look at is, 1 + 1 = 2. 1 - 1. That's the saving. What else is the saving? You say, come on, guys, get real. When from a perspective of, are you using this? Are you being more efficient? Are you driving value through doing things in a different way? And it's that. I mean, I've been around in the procurement game for 33 years. Right? I'm still having the same conversations now that I was having 20 years ago. It's trying to. It's like trying to move your iceberg, right? It's really, really difficult to move your iceberg because they think in one way, they all think the same way, and nobody goes any further. You have to take them kicking and screaming in the general direction of something that's different, and it's really hard, really hard.
No, I feel the pain because I had the same. I think something wrong needs to happen. So if something wrong happens to your company, I don't know in which industry you're working, people, they will start thinking, wow, we need to be careful. Something about child labor, or I don't know, like a big scandal. Of course, we don't expect that, but unfortunately, some companies, they need to face this kind of situation to understand that price is not. It sometimes can be the enemy. Savings on price can be the enemy, can be counterproductive. So to me, trying to be conceptual is not working on this discussion. So it's really to use some specific examples. So I gave you the example of the aluminum tube. Just telling the finance people, because of course at L'Occitane, they were very happy. The team, as I was mentioning, moved from a plain tube to a printed tube, but and that removed one person on the production line. But the risk is that if they don't recognize the savings, so next time, what are the procurement team going to do? Just going to look for a cheaper aluminum tube coming from China or wherever, with a big GSG impact, and we risk on shortages. So.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an example from the other side of the coin. I mean, I've been working in the indirect space a lot, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're talking about, okay, so GHG emissions, and in the case of transport. So mm-hmm. you think, well, the cost of your truck to go from A to B is €1,000, okay? Mm-hmm. But if the cost, even if you don't change the price, even if the price is still €1,000. If your vehicle fill is at 65% and you get your vehicle fill up to 90%, mm-hmm. you send less trucks, mm-hmm. right? You spend less money. But what do finance do? Well, it's still €1,000 to send it, so you haven't saved me anything. Yeah. So no, I have saved you, right? I've put 25% less trucks on the road. I've saved DSG. I've saved the total cost of transport into that area. And then, but then you have to go and you have to prove it. You have to show it. You have to spend more time doing things like that than I do, to a degree, doing good things. But that's life. I know. But it's exactly that argument. And when Joe asked, "Does this resonate?" You can tell it resonates.
Yeah, I know. But you have other friends, in the company, not just finance. You can also count on other people, and this is what I'm sharing now.
Yeah,
production departments.
I was going to say, do procurement have any friends? I'm not really sure, but maybe that's too cynical. But there you go.
People, you try to convince them to become your friend. Production departments. I don't know what happened to the audience during the COVID crisis, but I was sweating, about trying to find products at the last minute, backup suppliers and all these kind of things. And price was not the topic anymore, but L'Occitane has big margins, so of course they were able to absorb the on cost. But what was much more caring for them is not to get the products, right? To be able to produce the goods and to sell the goods for Christmas, which is a big period for this kind of products. So you can try to, you know, to convince also to get your colleagues from production, sometimes procurement reports to supply chain, for them to understand price is one point, but being short, not getting the materials can cost much more than the few euros you are or pounds you are supposed to save. Legal department, this is becoming bigger and bigger. Reputation, you know, we have this CSRD legislation that is coming in Europe, and all the companies in the world who want to work with Europe will have to be in line with the legislation, and it's really high now to be tagged as doing the green or rainbow washing. So I think these legal people who are close to the CEOs, that might also be a department that can help you convincing the finance department that price cutting can become a disaster. HR departments, one of the solution is to have shared objectives. Some companies have done that, but not so many, and that's unfortunate, because of course price reduction can be considered as a procurement objective, but is not, because you cannot just cut a price. You need of course to work with R&D or to other departments who are your stakeholders, and ESG is not a procurement objective. ESG is a company objective. So for procurement, being able to share objectives with other departments, which is an opportunity for us also to be involved into more projects and early in the project, is a solution that can help share the pain. So for instance, during the COVID, just before the Ukraine war, I started to have my budget increasing by 1 million euros. And my boss told me, I cannot accept 1 million euro increase in price. I told him, you know what, I'm not producing palm oil or tubes or packaging in my garden. So this is something you guys in my boss was the COO in operation to share the pain. So I set up a war room. Every Monday morning, we had a meeting with finance, supply chain, procurement, and sharing what's going on and asking them to make decision. Are we going to accept this price increase? If not, we are going to be short. And my team was really happy of that, because they were feeling all the pressure on their shoulders. And these guys, they are not paid to accept, 20, 40, 50 million euros increase in prices, or make the decision to not accept the price and then to be responsible for a shortage. So sharing the pain, sharing the objectives, when it's possible, and need to convince, your HR department about the importance of doing so. And last but not least, the CEOs. If you can have access to your ExCom or CEO bonus structure, then you can leverage the topics that would make sense for them. This idea, I got it from a friend of mine who's a CPO in a company here in France, and she's mainly working on topics that are impacting her CEO bonus. And you know what? It works. It's a bit cynical, huh? But
I would agree with you on that one, because that's something that we've done this last year with regard to putting science-based targets in place. So we've had net zero objectives across every employee within the organisation, and their stretch target has been the amount of organisations, their suppliers, which have got science-based targets in place. And because it's been in their bonus and it's been their objectives and their bonuses are tied to it, we've made a massive difference with that this year. And it does work. It does work. But the difficulty is if people have, say, 5 objectives for the year, it's difficult to fight to get that in all the time across all the ESG ones. So we started with net zero as the most important and prominent one for us this year. But yeah.
Joe, that's quite interesting, because I'm just in the process of, for my sins, writing the objectives for my procurement team next year. And for the first year, they're going to have a sustainability target in there, and they only get 3, right?
Brilliant.
So, so they only get 3. One of them is going to be sustainability. And I shied away from inserting actually getting a number of suppliers signed up to SBTIs. Okay, maybe just because I'm thinking, well, maybe that's actually quite difficult. I mean, how did you? Well, when you've then gone to your supply base to say, you need to be an SBT, what sort of feedback were you getting from the supply base about doing that? How easy or difficult was that? And just interested, just curious, so as to whether I go there this year or next year is another matter, but that's beside the point.
So our supply chain is owned throughout. So within our procurement function, we manage the most strategic suppliers and the largest ones that we've got, and the ones that are most critical. The rest are managed throughout the 3 main divisions of the organisation. So that objective has been put in across every employee within the organisation. So it's gone wider than actually just our team, which has been fantastic to really get them motivated and thinking about their own emissions and their own journey to net zero from that side of things. The conversations, we've done an awful lot of time to make sure we have increased awareness throughout the organisation. They've understood what they need to ask of their suppliers. We've given them guidance, and alongside we've engaged with CDP at the same time as well, from that supplier engagement, to ask them to also disclose their carbon emissions. A lot of the suppliers this year, they've either been on the journey or we've been able to entice them to start and to think about it. We have a vast number who are SMEs. And so we are lucky we can provide guidance. Places like the Climate Hub do lots of good guidance from there. But we use that one as the target because as part of our own net zero goals, we have publicly stated the percentages of our suppliers who will have SBTs in place by 2025 and 2030. And so in order for us to get there, we decided that this year, 2023, we needed to set internal targets. And so we set the internal targets by each of the main business areas, which I then coordinated and led them to have those discussions and then coordinated it. So it's all been auditable in terms of proof so that we can verify everything that we've done. It's been interesting conversations.
It's a really, really interesting area, isn't it? And I think it's so obvious, if all of the different people in the business units have targets that feed into these bigger goals, then of course it's easier to work together. Claire, I also saw that your hand went up, so I don't want you to miss out on an opportunity if you wanted to jump in with a question.
Yeah. I didn't have a question. I was really just going to chip in on how we're dealing with targets. I work for Sage Group, and this year, for the first time, our executive leadership team all have targets and goals around our net zero, our net zero ambitions, and those are embedded and they're flow down across the organisation. And I head up the procurement team at Sage, and we have a value target, so savings and the value add. And that sits alongside our sustainability targets, which are around improving the percentage of our strategic suppliers, disclosing to CDP, disclosing to EcoVadis, and setting science-based targets. So when I come on the calls like this, I realise how extremely lucky I am at Sage, because if anything, I'm being pushed by our leadership, when I know in a lot of organisations it's the other way. But when you have the executive support, then it's great. It's not to say I have a huge budget to deliver it, but we definitely have the support and the intention.
That's really refreshing and really good, actually, isn't it? In terms of not spending I don't know, Richard, maybe you'll verify. There's a lot of time and energy that sometimes goes into these conversations with finance to verify the value.
That is an understatement. I think I would say at least once a quarter we end up having to do oodles of reconciliations to try and find this to prove that it's lined up with the P&L. And there are some things that you do in procurement with the best will in the world. You'll never find it. And me working in the indirect space. I mean, that's even worse. But it's just the way it is. And you have to accept it to a degree, but also continuing to challenge it and continue to bang the drum to think about it slightly differently. I think I go back to Elvire slides right at the start. If you're still using the same KPIs from 20 years ago, you're going to fail. Right? The world has moved. There are different challenges and there are different things. If you're still thinking the same way you were 20 years ago, then you're on the wrong track. And there are some people that unfortunately that do that. Then their minds closed, they're blinkered, they're not thinking about anything other than their small little world, right?
But the CSRD of this legislation, extra financial report, they will, to me, is very similar to the financial crisis we had with Enron. Remember, in the year 2007-8, Enron, that was circulating wrong financial numbers. And so there was a new legislation, and now nobody's cheating anymore, right, on finance. So I think ESG is going to be something people will have to prove, and this is the end of green and rainbow washing. And I can give you, I'm sure in your company, there are many examples of sourcing strategies that are not really, let's say, supportive of the environment and the society. So I don't know in which business you are involved, but the risk is high, is huge for companies to lose share values. And I can give you many examples, but I'm sure you have the same, right?
I said this when I met Joe in Berlin earlier on in the year. I work in the plastic industry, so I'm the great Satan to start with, let alone anything else. So I'm buying lots of resin, I'm buying lots of stuff that's built with fossil fuels and stuff like that. So making a difference actually is critical for the simple reason that everybody silly example. Everybody looks at if somebody would say, if you were to buy your product and it was packaged in paper or it was packaged in plastic, which is greener? And everybody will say paper, but it's not necessarily. That's not necessarily the case. Okay, and it's just the way. So therefore, given the fact of the industry that I'm in, right, being cognizant and driving ESG is critical to the business. It's critical to the business.
Yeah. To the business and to us, to our life, to the life of our children. Yeah, absolutely.
Correct.
Absolutely.
And importantly, right, that whilst there is, especially in our business, there is a full understanding of the level of importance. We're bought into targets, we're bought into sustainability reporting, we've set targets, the whole lot, right? It's just then taking that step away from that high level target to the day-to-day stuff that drives the business. There just needs to be for me a change in focus to take more cognizance of sustainability in your decision-making process. We just started going through a process of changing our views in relation to RFP results. Yes, 40% of it's about price and service and quality, but bang, as from 6 months ago, we've now got an element in the RFP process of the ESG part of the questionnaire. Answers come in, it becomes part of the decision-making process. So you're trying to make decisions about not just necessarily about price or service.
Yeah, and if your company is looking to get some money from investors, better they have a good ESG performance, because if not, I think they will struggle. So it might not come next year, but it might come earlier than we expect, because companies are going to start struggling to get funds.
Well, no, and actually, that's good. You reminded me. I mean, we're in private equity, right? So during the last, I suppose renegotiation round on financing. Within our financing packages is our targets on reduction of scope 1 and scope 2 by 2025. If we hit those numbers, then we get a lower interest rate. So there you go.
Money speaks, huh? Money matters.
It's already there. It's already there. So great discussion. So I'll let you guys carry on. Sorry, Jo.
No, it's brilliant. Thanks, Richard.
So maybe I can continue on the slide. So, and this is maybe what would be the graal, you know, if you start impacting the top line. So if procurement can start contributing to impact the top line by creating value, if we go back to my iceberg, so then really we can start having a seat on the table, or at least trying to be impactful with our colleagues, saying that we are not just here to save money. And unfortunately, this is the way they see us, but it is, maybe this is also the way we have communicated our performance for years and decades. I've been one of them, right? Being so proud of my savings because I enjoy doing it. But that was very short term, and the consequences today are high for the world, the function, and the companies. So on this slide, I'm going to share with you, to share with the audience how to try to hit the top line by creating commercial and ESG value. So I have set up a matrix. I call it the regenerative matrix because I have created the concept of regenerative procurement, which aims to give back to the ecosystem, you know, like the economy or the agriculture is to giving back to the ecosystem what has been taken during decades. And my proposal here on this matrix is on the horizontal line is to try to understand what your suppliers' capabilities to create value on ESG. So from 0 to 2. And on the vertical one is what your customers, internal customers or consumers, you know, if you want B2C, are looking for. So sometimes procurement is very good in knowing its supplier, but sometimes not so good at knowing its customers. So my idea is that if you miss one of the two, the 0, let's say, number is going to neutralize everything you can do from one side to another. For instance, you are a marketing guy and you have been promoted to move to procurement. So you know everything about your customers, but you don't know anything about your suppliers, and your impact will be 0. And the same way, a procurement person who would be very good in procurement, but not curious about the business. If you start moving on one box, then your value creation can reach 25%. And then the top, of course, is on the top right, it's 100%. So I'm sure you all do that. We all do that, trying, you know, to meet suppliers' capabilities with customers' expectations, but working it on a very systematic way can help also communicate to your finance and legal and whatever, HR, CEO, whomever we need to convince in the company, but putting on a piece of paper that we need to work together to create value for the company and to move away from the 0-0 box, you know, the transactional procurement that has never brought anything more than just price reduction. And this is where, yes, this is where intelligence, this is where we have creativity, and this is where we start having fun, and we are looking to have fun in the jobs. In terms of pyramid, the people, what I'm also thinking is that the pyramid is shifting. So today in procurement, we are attracting a lot of tactical profiles. We need people to, you know, produce tenders, work on tenders, and that's a lot of work. And we have only few people who are strategic people working on collaboration and value creation. And tomorrow, with the artificial intelligence, I think we will need less and less people to do the tenders, to do all these, you know, recurring tasks. And we might be able to attract more strategic profiles because the machine will never be able to build partnerships. And we will get rid of all the boring and tasks that are making us busy. For instance, at Procter, 80% of the tenders are managed by robots today. I also heard that there is a German startup who has been able to read 10 years of emails from a procurement department from a company. And so by reading and learning from these 10 years of emails, the machine is now able to manage a procurement organization by itself. About tenders, about budgets, all these things we do every year, and the recurring activities. So procurement people should not be afraid of the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not going to to take our jobs. We need to be afraid not to understand how artificial intelligence can help us. But maybe this is another topic, and so we can have another session on that. But there's a lot to say, and artificial intelligence can really help us on the ESG performance, because with artificial intelligence, you can get to know a lot of information today we don't have, because we just don't have access or the time to do it. So this is my conclusion. I think we have 10 minutes more for questions or comments or sharing thoughts. So as Dwayne is saying, blood, sweat, and respect, we need to give to be able to earn.
And I'm on mute. That was amazing. Thank you. It's Guy. I wonder, there's been a bit of chat. There's lots of chat. So thank you. Let's just touch on some of the specifics, shall we? So Guy, I know you're involved on social value very much in terms of how have you seen different organisations or yourself creating the value from more social enterprises and work that you've been involved in?
So yeah, no, it's really interesting. I apologize. I only managed to get the last half hour of the presentation. Forgive me, I had a meeting that ran on. But I was really interesting. Elvire, is Elvire? Elvire, merci. About how you had ESG strokes social value creation, which I think is really important. And from what I see by working with large private sector organizations, is that they tend to be very focused on ESG, where they are focused on anything at all. And I rarely see any of them having a conversation about value creation. They might talk about it, but they have no way of measuring it. And the thing about ESG is that, you ask for the policies, and of course, EcoVadis do this. They ask for the policies of human rights. They ask for policies for modern slavery. They ask for the policies of palm oil in your supply chain, etc. So it's all about the hygiene factor, is what's the risk. But I rarely see anyone asking about what is the value creation and how do you measure that and how do you report it, and which for me is really interesting, because when you're in the public sector, certainly in the UK, and it's what our business does, we have a procurement platform that helps the public sector ask for value from their supply chain. So embedded in the contract is the sustainable elements of the thing you're buying. And then what we do and what the Social Value Act does in this country, it says, what else do you do as a supplier for the public sector? What added value do you provide? And I think that's a really interesting conversation here in the UK with the public sector. And I think it's something that we need to encourage private sector colleagues to begin to do and to begin to ask. And of course, in this country, we have, for the public sector procurement, we have a weighting of 15 to 20% around the value creation piece. And and of course, that's all publicly declared, and the public sector suppliers then provide that. And so I'm really interested to hear what you're doing, Elvire, around that value creation story. How do you measure it? How do you report it? And what's a good value from a supply chain? And what weighting do you use to make sure that suppliers don't just talk about it, they actually deliver it?
When I was with Unilever, I was a global VP in charge of a program called Partner to Win. That was a program launched by Paul Polman. Maybe you know the name of Paul Polman. He
yes,
used
of
to
course.
be the CEO. He's a very famous one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very inspiring guy. So Paul Polman in 2010, he was saying two things. He was saying we need to double our turnover by 2020 by maintaining our environmental impact, which is nicely articulated because some companies, like in France, we have Danone. Emmanuel Faber was the CEO of Danone and has been fired because he was very, 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 very strong on ESG, but he forgot the value of the shares. So he lost the job. So what Paul did is to really articulate the importance of growing, and he was making it very simple, just double the turnover. He was not saying EBITDA divided by debt or whatever KPI. He was making simple, and he was saying 70% of the innovation should come from suppliers. So that was the two mantras, the two elements he was saying. And, double the turnover by 2020, maintaining environmental impact. That was not for procurement only. That was for everybody in the company, HR, finance, marketing, everybody. Every time you were doing something, you had to think about increase the revenue and the impact on the environment. And saying that 70% of the innovation should come from suppliers, this is also very smart because all companies that have the not invented here syndrome. All companies, all R&D departments and marketing, and they all think they know everything. Imagine you are Unilever, you have 10 of thousands of people in R&D. It's a huge department. But you're not an expert in everything. You're an expert in doing shampoo, but you're not an expert in surfactant, right? In chemicals products. You're not an expert in labels. You're not an expert in packaging. So that requires a little bit of, opening the chakras. And even if Paul was, sponsoring the approach, I was struggling to get my colleagues from R&D open to this kind of approach. But after a while, you can convince them. So to answer your question, have a program, if you can, name it, and you can do it.
So can I just ask slightly different, in a different way? How do you define value creation? Is value creation just more revenue? Is that how you see value creation?
No, I'm going to give you some examples. So just to finish the point. So if you want to create something and make it official, give a name to your program. So he called it Partner to Win. At L'Occitane, I call it Partners by Nature. So find a name, put that a logo in your signature. So everybody, suppliers, stakeholders, they know that you're working on value creation and ESG creation. And so I worked, for instance, I was a CPO of a French company, 7 billion company. So SAP became a partner to work on value creation. I guess most of the people have worked with SAP. It's quite tough. They are difficult people to work with. Are you familiar with the collaboration with SAP?
Well, I know SAP, but
but they are difficult because what they do, they sell you licenses and then they check how many licenses you are using and they fine you because they say you will use more licenses. So it's not a collaborative way of doing business. And the IT department was struggling with SAP, so they came to me and said, "What can we do?" Because we are destroying value. They are destroying value because of course, you can define value creation by as an opposition of value destruction, right? And I'm sure value destruction, you have many, many examples of value destruction. So I talked to the CEO of SAP in France, asking them, do you want to become partners? And they said, yes. I was surprised that they said yes, because they have such a bad reputation. And the value creation with SAP was to stop having all these fines based on the fact we were sometimes not very, not very good at counting the licenses because we were partners. So then we've been able to have a high level of discussion where there was an issue. So value creation can be everything. This is why it's so difficult to define. Can be avoiding problems, can be avoiding reputation issues, can be fixing reputational issues, can be avoiding spending money. I can give you another example with Adecco, the temporary services company. We also built a program with them, training the people in the plants to reduce the accidents.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, okay.
Good. So, Joe, back to you. I sort of slightly didn't mean to take it. I did want to ask Richard a question, actually, if that's okay with you, Joe.
Yeah, I've got an eye on time.
Very quickly. So, Richard, you mentioned that you have a weighting in your business for ESG. What is that weighting? And do you religiously follow it? And are you prepared to publish or let the losing bidders know what their score is? How do you do that?
Well, I mean, it goes in at 15%.
Oh, it does.
So it's 15% of the overall package, in between price, service, quality, delivery, innovation, etc. It goes in as 15% of the overall package. So if, for example, if somebody and it's tied in with our Scope 3 work that we're doing. So if somebody has got SBT, science-based targets, if somebody's doing an EcoVadis, if somebody's doing CDP, and if somebody's got LCAs for their product, then they're going to score 100% of their 15%. Okay, so
say 50, 15 or 50?
15. So out of the 100% in the whole package, the biggest portion is still price and service, okay, but then there's quality, etc. But so within that 15%, if they've got if they've got all 4 of those items, then they're going to get that full mark. And then there is when you're comparing it, then you're comparing different elements before you're making a final decision.
At L'Occitane, it was 30%, 30. I was asking my team to have 30% of the notation on ESG.
Just like I was saying to Joe earlier on about starting off next year with putting targets in the buyer's but bonus structure, right? The 15% is the first hit. Am I going to ask them to do SBTIs next year? Probably not. I'll just ask them to sign up, take the pledge. I'll ask them to take training courses. I'll ask them to do some UNGC training stuff. And actually, so they start, first things first, they've got to understand what sustainability is all about. And then they can, well, now I know why I should be asking these questions. Now I know why I've got to be building it in so that we can make it work. So it's like anything. I think Oliver keeps saying this, it's better to start somewhere than not do anything at all. So there you go.
Absolutely.
But yeah, there's plenty of goals to go, plenty of goals. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you, Elvrie. We are at the hour. It's gone very, very quickly. There is clearly a lot more discussion that we can have on this, on our tenders, on our objectives, and everything that we can do. And we'll welcome all discussions entirely. Elvrie, I want to thank you very much for your time this afternoon and all your insights, and for everybody else who has contributed. Thank you very much. It's been brilliant. We will share this recording because we're very conscious it is December. Not everybody who wanted to has been able to diarise it and been able to manage, but we will share it. And if there's anything else, other topics, anything else that you would like to talk about for next year, please do let us know. And one quick date for your diary before we go. Charlotte actually has it up on her screensaver. World Sustainable Procurement Day next March 21st. It's a spring equinox. We're currently planning events, speakers, and everything there. If there's anything that anyone would like to get involved with, any topics in particular, please just let me know because we're in the middle of planning it now. So thank you. Thank you again, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for setting up. Great session.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.